Welcome to Now Hear This. I'm your host, Chris Spangle. Now Hear This is a conversation with leaders in Indianapolis that are working to improve the lives of Hoosiers. Our goal is to empower you to join in their work and make a difference while informing you about the unseen aspects of life in Indiana. If you miss an episode, you can listen via podcast at nowhearthisindy.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are talking to an organization that I love, that I had a friend who was personally changed by this organization, and I'm so excited to tell you about them. And with me today is Darcey Palmer-Schultz, the Chief Executive Officer of Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Central Indiana. Thank you so much for joining us, and why don't we start with telling us what your organization does?
Absolutely. So Big Brothers, Big Sisters believes that inherent in every child is the potential to succeed and thrive in life. And we always start with that because it's really important to know that our starting point with working with kids is knowing that they are full of amazing potential. And so our mission is to defend, ignite, and empower that potential through one-to-one mentoring relationships.
And their website is bebigforkids.org, correct?
That is correct. Thank you.
Always like to get that in there early, so and mention often for our organization. So this relationship that is built. So I had a personal friend who was kind of at a hard time in their life and just didn't have a lot of direction, and saw an advertisement and thought, I didn't have the greatest situation as a kid. I'd love to go do that. And she was in her late 20s at the time and became a big sister of a girl. And I have to tell you that they're still very close friends, but that relationship, I think, helped her focus her life. It helped just an amazing improvement in the girl's life. Didn't come from even a rough home. It was just having that other person that they could confide in was incredibly powerful in their life. So I've seen it firsthand. Is that a common story for people who become big brothers or big sisters?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think it's one of the things that after starting working for Big Brothers, Big Sisters was kind of one of the pleasant surprises or the great surprises of the work is how much it really impacts everybody involved. As a parent, or for those who are parents out there, I think you're really aware of how much your kids need and benefit from the influences of others in their process of growing up and in that journey, and how having a number of people surround them to encourage them in different ways and guide them in different ways and help them find, all of the possibility for their lives is really important. And so I think, that's a real, gift to the kids and families for sure. But I think our bigs often are blown away and regularly report back, that they got involved first and foremost to, impact the life of another person, to impact the life of a child. And they certainly see that happens as part of this relationship. But they are surprised at least a little bit by how much they walk away feeling like it's changed their lives or changed their perspective or given them a different sense of understanding about the world or what kids are facing growing up or their own life experience and how that differs from others. And again, just changes their worldview in such a significant way.
So the little sisters, little brothers, what is the age range and what does your typical, I'm not sure if you call them participant member, what is their general background? Why does a child get involved in this program?
Sure. So we call our kids littles, little brothers, little sisters, or littles, just for short. And they tend to be, ages 8 to 18. We enroll kids between 8 and 14 and we'll continue serving through high school. And so some kids will be 19 when they finish up with us, but we'll serve from that entire 8 to 18 timeframe. And kids come to us, really for all different reasons. They come, our program outcome areas where we're proven to have impact is around academic engagement and success, avoidance of risky behaviors, and then social and emotional development. So I would say within that very broad range of impact, kids will come because they might be pursuing impact in one of those areas or all of those areas, and same, with what their parents might want for them from this experience. And so the range is quite huge. Family dynamics vary quite a bit for kids that come to us. The great majority of kids we serve are living with one parent or a grandparent or another relative, but not all. We have about 40% of our kids are impacted by the incarceration of a family member, and over 80% receive free or reduced lunch. And so there might be an economic barrier there as well. But kids, we serve kids from Johnson, Marion, and Hamilton counties, probably in every zip code throughout that stretch, and all different kinds of backgrounds. And I think that's one of the really great things about the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, is that it truly is customized for every single child we serve, their strengths, their challenges, what they need and want out of this experience, because we're able to pair them with their very own volunteer who has the support of a staff member, to really work with them around what's important to them in their own development and what they want to accomplish.
So who does a child generally, are they the ones that say, I'd like a mentor? I mean, that's a little advanced for maybe an 8-year-old, or is it a parent that says, my child's struggling, or my child wants to excel, or is it an outside force, like maybe a social worker or a school counselor? Like, what's the entrance to the funnel for the kid?
Yeah, it's actually all of the above. I would say the great majority of our youth referrals or applicants are, the starting point really is the parent or caregiver in that home. Some kids do call and ask, directly for a big.
That's cute.
We have some of those for sure that come through, and those are some of our favorites always. But usually it's through the parent, and then we work with quite a few schools and other programs, and so other social workers, teachers, principals, youth program, workers from other organizations might make referrals as well. Ultimately, we start with the parent then after that referral is made to start a conversation. But anybody who's interested in suggesting this opportunity for a child can start that process, and then we'll get it going with the parent or caregiver to walk through the next steps.
You're listening to Now Hear This, and I am Chris Spangle. Please subscribe to our podcast now in your podcast app by searching for Now Hear This with Chris Spangle. I'm speaking to Darcey Palmer-Schultz, the Chief Executive Officer of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central Indiana, and their website is bbbsci.org, or you can go to bebigforkids.org. And so what about the bigs? So is it typically somebody like my friend who's just like, I want to get involved, I want to get back, or do they come in saying, I'm really good at X skill and I want to offer this to a child? Or what does your big typically look like?
Yeah, so our bigs start at age 19, and we always say there's no ending point. So we have bigs of all ages. And really what it comes down to is someone who's interested in forming a friendship, with a child who's 8 to 14 when they first meet, getting to know their interests and their, again, strengths and challenges to work with them and supporting them, and being a good partner with the parent or caregiver and the staff member to really do that as a team in its own way. Certainly when you're spending time with your little, you're one-on-one for the most part. But parents are very involved, which is one of the things we're very grateful for, because they're able to help us make sure that we're supporting their kids and accomplishing what matters most for their family. And then we have professional staff members who work with every single big and little pair and parent to navigate and coach and help them be as productive and rewarded as possible by the experience. And then the agency provides quite a bit of activities and tickets and offerings so that bigs and littles have a lot that they can do together fairly easily. We work really hard to make sure that we have great partnerships in place and donors so that, again, this year's been a little different in that regard, but, in a normal year, bigs and littles are regularly going to Colts games and Pacers games and Fever games and out at Victory Field and going to plays and theater and, visiting the Idle Jorg and, just all of our great offerings in the area. We have so many that have done a lot to make it possible for bigs and littles to go at low or no cost. Lots of things that happen in that regard the agency tries to make possible. And then we host other events focused on youth development and college and career readiness for our high school students, to really make sure that in addition to the exploratory and kind of fun experiences that really are part of being in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, that we're laying on top of that those, general youth development and life planning skill development opportunities as well. And so that's all put together and made very accessible for everyone involved, so that it's easy to have things to do. It's easy to navigate the bumps along the way with the support of an organization that's kind of behind you the whole way.
Yeah, there were bumps that were unexpected, but the staff was great and kind of helped in some of that stuff, because sometimes a kid, when they have a mentor, they feel comfortable saying things or talking about things with that mentor, and then the mentor goes, help. And so,
yeah.
I think that is one of the benefits of mentorship. I know for me personally, my 30s have been infinitely better than my 20s because of mentorship. So I imagine if I had started at 8, I could be so much more successful then. So I would encourage everybody to take a look at this, because this was just super enriching for my friend, for her little. I imagine you do background checks. I imagine that you consider safety and who you pair. What is the process of keeping kids safe, but also the pairing? How do you judge who gets paired with whom?
Yeah, so for both kids and parents and volunteers, there's a multi-step process that's really, geared at making sure, one, everyone is informed about what the experience is, and they feel like they know what they need to know to continue down that process. Two, to assess for, is this the right fit? Partially just, is this the right program for you to volunteer, or the right program for your child to participate in? And safety, do we determine that this is a safe applicant to have involved in the program? And then we look at what might make for a good match. So what do we know about each of you, both from the child perspective and the volunteer perspective, to figure out why you might be a good pairing? We don't simply take, the next child on the list with the next volunteer on the list and put them together. There is a deliberate process that looks at, geographic location combined with expectations of the program and needs of the program, and interests, to try and figure out who might actually be a good fit, that might kind of hit the ground running, have some things that get them started, but also have some potential kind of personality or expectation alignment that will make them a good pair for the long haul. And that's one of the most rewarding parts from a staff perspective, is hearing over and over again, I can't believe what a good fit this is. And certainly, kids are like all people. They change and they develop and they evolve over the course of time. And so sometimes you might have more in common or less over the course of that relationship. But at the end of the day, we regularly hear, this is a great fit. I'm so glad I got paired with this particular child or volunteer. And, we don't know how you did it, but this was about as good as I could have hoped for.
So we've only got time for, we've only got 2 minutes left here. So I want to ask you first, where can people financially support you? Because I'm sure things are super weird with COVID.
Yeah. So, if you want to get involved as a volunteer or as a donor, please visit us on our website. That's the easiest starting point, at bebigforkids.org. In addition to kind of filling out the application or making a donation there, you can find all of our staff, and you're welcome to reach out to any one of us individually, and we'd love to talk to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Darcey Palmer-Schultz, the Chief Executive Officer of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central Indiana, and their website is Be Big for Kids. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It was great to be here.
Thanks for listening to Now Hear This. I'm your host, Chris Spangle. If you missed any portion of our program, you can listen on our website, nowhearthisindy.com. If you'd like to have your organization featured on the show, please email Gabby at nowhearthisindy@iheartmedia.com. Make sure you check out our podcast. And thanks for listening. We will be back again next weekend with Now Hear This. Our goal at the Chris Spangle Show is to help you sound smarter while talking with your friends. If you struggle to understand politics, we explain it from an independent, libertarian perspective with all of the irreverence modern politics deserves. We toss out the screaming heads and put people before political parties and give context to the news to make you think. I'm the host. I'm a 15-year veteran of politics and media, and this show is published every Saturday. It's part of the We Are Libertarians network, and be sure to join Wall Plus for bonus podcasts, the complete archives, commercial-free shows, and more. Subscribe now at wearelibertarians.com.